Hi, I'm Leathur Rokk. Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to tell you about my 10 plus years of being on YouTube, some of the things I wish I'd known, and maybe some advice I can give you about what it's really like to grow your channel, and some of the successes and some of the mistakes I made, so that maybe you can learn from somebody if you're starting out or thinking of starting your own YouTube channel. So, I've been making videos, like I said, for over 10 years now, and there's definitely been a learning curve involved in being a content creator here on this platform. Um, Generally speaking, it's free to start. YouTube does not charge anybody to decide to become a creator. However, you have to have an investment in some kind of basic equipment. Because I'm only going to be talking about my experience, I'm not going to really be mentioning things like smartphones or anything, which is where with the way a lot of creators are making their content now. I, until very recently, never had a cell phone, and the one that I have, I hardly know how to use, and I don't have a data plan on it. So I've never successfully used it for filming or anything. I've only had experience with laptop computers and right now the tablet that I'm using to film this. So every time you use different kind of technology, there is a learning curve involved. And the thing about computers is anybody that's ever had a computing device knows is eventually every computer is going to break. And depending on your financial situation, the quality of your production value can vary depending on your finances. And say you have a computer, I always like to use a laptop so that I could see myself when I'm filming. And until only 3 years ago, I never knew how to edit. So I would just film straight through videos like the video that you're about to watch. So say that you have been making videos and you're kind of getting into the swing of things, even if you're not able to edit it first, and you might eventually decide to set a schedule. And I decided to set a schedule of Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But I would only say the day that my schedule would be, not saying an hour, because that's just too hard to schedule. Not that people don't do it, but I find as long as I make the day, I should be okay. The thing is, you have a computer for a while, and it will break. And what happens if your computer breaks and you're not able to make your content? So you might not be able to be consistent with your programming if your computer breaks on you. And of course, when it breaks, there's a cost involved to replace your equipment. And you learn, you invest to upgrade your equipment. And generally speaking, your production values will get better as you're able to upgrade your equipment. But then what happens if your financial situation changes? You might not be able to afford $3,000 for a top of the line laptop computer, and you might not have the tech ability needed to use a high-end camera, and they could be upwards of $2,000 kind of cameras that a lot of YouTubers use. It's not enough to just buy the equipment. You also have to learn how to use it. Even if you go on a lower end and you buy discounted electronics on wish.com, I got a camcorder and a little miniature digital camera like 5 years ago that I still have not learned how to use. So I've never been able to use them to make my content. And you got to think about just what kind of things you need your equipment to be able to do. I will use this current tablet that I'm filming from as an example. Until I think when I just finally was about to get it, I found out that it didn't have any ports attached. So even though I had invested in a ring light, a better quality clip-on microphone, without any ports to attach those things, I am not able, as you can see, unless I hold my face a certain way to catch the overhead light, which is the only light that I'm illuminating this. I have nothing to plug in my ring light. I can't plug in my higher quality clip-on camera. I can't plug in a microphone. So I am forced to deal within the limitations imposed on me by the device that I have. If you watched the last video I filmed, you saw that it abruptly cut off at the 45-minute mark, and I, of course, didn't know that. So again, now that I know that, this video is going to have to be under 45 minutes because otherwise I'm going to expect that it's just going to cut off again. You have to learn to work within your limitations. Most people would expect that the longer you're doing this, your quality of your production value is going to gradually get better with your experience on this platform or any other video platforms. These things I'm telling you are applicable not just to YouTube, but they would work with Twitch, with Instagram, with any video platform, or even any place where you would be producing video content. So you know that you would want to have something that when you're shopping for equipment, you know that you would want to have something that has ports to fit the peripherals that you would attach. Say I wanted to start recording without touching the computer. You could have something that, like a mouse or something, a wireless mouse that you could trigger from a distance. But if there are no ports to attach these things to, then you wouldn't be able to do that. Now, this what I'm filming with is the Amazon Fire HD10 tablet, and I had problems with my live streaming when I did my cooking on Tuesday. And this particular tablet, and I'm sure many mobile devices, has a front camera and a back camera. The front camera is also commonly called the selfie camera, and that's really the most ideal for filming yourself because you can see it. It's its own monitor, and you can see yourself and how you fit in the frame. You can see, like I'm looking at this background, and I can see exactly what's behind me. I can make sure that I keep in frame. I can make sure that I'm close enough to the device, which has a built-in microphone so that you can hopefully hear me clearly. You have to think about all these things, and it's always good to do a test filming just to see what it sounds like before you go, so that you don't take the time to produce your video only to find out that your equipment doesn't work, or just try to do it cold and see how well it goes. Now, a couple of computers ago, I had a Chromebook I bought on Wish.com. It was refurbished, and even with taxes and shipping, it was still less than $100, and that was really wonderful. Chromebooks, of course, have advantages and disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage is that they do not have hard drives. All the storage is cloud storage, and the Chromebook was using up my Google Photos storage uh, area. And Google Photos actually has a limit that you can't exceed, and if you do, then you're going to start charging you for your, uh, you know, to have storage space. And the thing is, if you were doing a lot of posting on social media, as long as they aren't high resolution pictures, they don't go up against your storage limit. But if you get good digital pictures, they're going to be high resolution pictures, and that is going to count against your limit. So Chromebooks, but because they don't have hard drives, they are ideal for live streaming. And the advantage of live streaming is, even if I had a normal laptop computer that I was filming with, and say I had a terabyte or two of storage, obviously since video files are big files, the bigger storage, the better. But with the Chromebook, it's not taking up any space for storage. It's all ends up being in, once it's already been posted, it's already in YouTube. So if, say, you don't have a hard drive, then they are very ideal for going live, because you don't need to, when you're going live, even if you had a hard drive device, when you go live, nothing stays in your computer. It all stays within YouTube itself. And say a couple years down the road or whatever, you have an option to download back into whatever device you're using all the content that's in YouTube. There's a button on everything that you've ever recorded so you can download things. And some people actually choose to do that just in case something happens that YouTube decides to take their channel away. And it would really suck if your content was deleted and you weren't able to download a copy back, because you might want the option to use another service to put your content in. I'll use myself as an example. If you've been watching me for any length of time, you know that I run a variety channel and I'm not afraid to tackle controversial subjects such as marijuana, such as politics, and not everything is advertiser friendly. And if you're concerned about the possibility that maybe things might change with your government and they might take down some of your videos, you might want to upload them to safer platforms. And one of the other platforms that I started to put my political content in is a company called BitChute, and that's BITCHUTE. And that's another service that's free as long as you have the equipment. But many people back up their channels on other sites just in case something happens, with Silicon Valley and the censorship and the fact that it skews a lot toward the left. If you're making any content that's at least a bit right wing, or if you talk about controversial things such as cannabis, even if you're in a fully legal state, and my state is fully legal now, it's not legal federally. So you probably should back up your content on a site that you know is friendly with that subject matter. There are sites that have a right wing focus. That's probably another good backup, especially if you make any kind of right wing type of content. I've got notes here. That's why I'm looking down. Now, because not all people own cell phones, I'm not going to talk about equipment that I don't have. But a great thing about using cell phones to make your content is it's much more portable, obviously. And another thing that you should keep into account when you are making your content and your thumbnail, the first picture you see when you choose to look at a video, it's a good idea to make a thumbnail that is easily viewable no matter what kind of device a person's watching. When you make content, you have no way of knowing what equipment your audience has. Some people will watch their videos through their cable company on their TV. I have Comcast. I discovered that I can watch YouTube videos on my television, and that's really a neat thing. So you figure if your thumbnail is watched by somebody who has watches on their TV, then that's a nice big screen. But if a lot of people are watching on a cell phone, think of how small your cell phone screen is. In that case, you would want to make sure that your thumbnail uh, doesn't need to be cluttered with a whole lot of tiny, tiny, tiny little details. Because you figure if you're looking at it as an image, it's like the size of a postage stamp, they're not going to see those tiny little details with clarity. So you want things that are simple, easy to understand. You want your thumbnail to be such that you should be able to take a look at it and have a pretty good idea of what the subject matter is of your video. Also, you should have certain consistent themes within your thumbnail so that a person can look at the video and right away look at it and say, oh, I know whose video that is. That's such and such, and I like them, so I'm going to click it on and watch it. You also want to think of SEO. Do you know what SEO is? It stands for Search Engine Optimization. That used to be mostly for people that are doing marketing, but it's also for anybody that has any kind of content that you want to be found. The whole idea of SEO is people watch content for different reasons, and there are search terms that are commonly used when a person is looking for the very subject that you would want to film about, and you want to make content that people are going to find. You know, the best content in the world isn't going to be that good if nobody knows it exists. So you want to be found. So the whole concept of SEO is after you've already made the video, a lot of times you'll know what your subject is, but you will struggle over the look of the thumbnail and the title. So you want to craft a title that uses terms that people are likely to use when they are looking for it. The easier it is for it to be found, the more views you're going to get. And that will help you not only in the first 48 hours, but for years afterward, because you can have a video that, depending on the subject matter, every year people will want to be interested in, such as if you compose and film holiday content. Every year, like if I'm doing a Christmas video, every year people will go looking for Christmas things and they will likely find your video. I know that kind of content is called evergreen content, not because of the reference to Christmas trees, but evergreen meaning that it's a constant subject matter that's always in demand, that there's always going to be something looking for it. So the views that you get just when you first put out your content, it will continue to grow if it's a subject that people are interested in. I will use my marijuana playlist as an example. I will also use my body piercing videos as another example. Those are subjects that have great interests and you can get lots and lots of views. Now, YouTube keeps on raising the goalpost as far as their requirements to get monetization. Used to be you only needed a couple hundred subs and you could get ads put on your videos. But after controversial actions by Logan Paul, I won't get into the story. You could do a search and find out what happened. They got a lot stricter with us content creators, and now you have to have at least 1,000 subs and at least 4,000 hours of watch time before they can consider you to get ads placed. But that's not the only way that you can make money on YouTube videos. By far, there's so many ways that even little guys can make money on YouTube. You can put affiliate links like for Amazon, or if there's any shopping sites that you use regularly, things you should really put links to things that fit in with your channel, things that you love. You don't want to just post links just to post links, and you do want to make sure that they are very accurate. They're perfect links, that nothing's broken or anything. Otherwise, YouTube can and they will give you a spam check on your video. And you get enough of those and they can take your channel down, and nobody wants that. Another thing you have to be very careful about is copyright laws. You cannot have any music that you don't own the rights. And it doesn't mean because you bought the record album or the CD or the file that you can use it. No, just because you paid for a personal copy to listen in your home or your car or take along with you in a device, that doesn't mean you own the rights to it. Even though you may watch videos where people put a few seconds of this song and that song, and there's no such thing as a few seconds of courtesy. No, you just cannot get away with, even if you see other content creators doing it. If you don't own the rights to it, don't put it in there. The longer I have been making my YouTube videos, when I first started making videos, I had all kinds of band posters on my walls, which, okay, yes, it was interesting to look at, and it was kind of cluttered, but you really don't want things that are full of copyrighted images and things. If the person who owns a copyright sees your video for any reason, they can file a complaint and you can get a copyright strike. Get 3 of those, YouTube can take your channel down. You don't invest the kind of time and sometimes money into a channel only to risk it being taken down for something like that. This even also means if you're filming outside, and say you're filming on the beach and you get too close to a beach bar and a DJ's playing music, if you can discern that in the background, you can and you will get a copyright strike. If you're, any public places, any stores you pass by and they're blasting a radio, you have to be so careful about that. Just because you see other YouTubers or other uh, platforms, people getting away with it, doesn't mean that you can get away with it. And sometimes I wonder why as many people get away with it as do, but it's definitely against the law and you don't want to break them. Another fairly recent change YouTube made is as regards to certain subject matter that you are not allowed to cover. Uh, a fair percentage of my content delves in political issues, and it's no secret that I happen to be a Trump supporter, and I was one of many millions of people that also was concerned about things going on, election irregularities. But YouTube finally, under pressure from, I believe, Dominion, the organization that made that software that involved the voting booths and things, now if I made a video all about election fraud, for instance, I would get a strike. They have a 4-strike system in place now where you're not allowed to make content focused solely on that. If you do, you will get a strike. However, prior to when they implemented that rule, if you already made pre-existing videos about that, they won't touch them. So I do have content belly aching about the election being stolen and stuff, and that won't be taken down. Sometimes they will, YouTube will accuse you of certain things in your video, and they will usually email you in your Gmail account, because Gmail is owned by Google. Google, as you probably know, bought out YouTube. They will let you know if they think that you broke a rule or something. And they usually give you some time to fight a decision. There was a video I made a couple of years ago where I told a family story about one of my aunts and how she was deeply offended by some souvenirs that I had sent from when I went to the Trump inauguration, and how for 4 years she held in her resentment of me and my politics. And she'd written this long letter in with my mother's Christmas card the other year. And I did a video just about how my aunt was triggered by my politics. And YouTube threatened to take it down. And I got back to them. I said, wait a minute. Nobody has a right to tell me that I can't talk about my family and somebody having a problem with me based on my politics. That's not breaking any rule. That's a free speech thing there. And under First Amendment, nobody has a right to tell me to censor my speaking my truth. When you're talking about family issues and things, your family's your family. We still do have the First Amendment, even though the Silicon Valley is owned by these corporations, and when they have these platforms like social networks, for instance, even though you would think, okay, I have the First Amendment to protect me, if it's owned by a private company, that's how they can get away with censoring views that they don't agree with. It doesn't make it right. That just happens to be how it is. Hopefully in the very near future, we will have more social networks, including video content platforms, where there will be absolute true freedom of speech. And crossing my fingers that that day is going to come soon. So you have to really think a lot about this when you're making your content. If you're just getting started and you're thinking about what your channel is going to be like, now I have availed myself of a lot of continuing education, almost all of it being free. There are certain YouTube teachers that most of us YouTubers watch their videos, and we learn so much about the craft of being a YouTube content creator. And I'll drop some names for you that I will personally recommend. I haven't met any of them in real life, but they produce very great educational content. Nick Nimmin is one. Brian G. Johnson is one. Roberto Blake is another one. Daryl Eves is another one. Owen Video is another one. There are certain plugins depending on what your web browser is, uh, are really good. I can recommend TubeBuddy. Now that has to be used on the Chrome browser. Since I'm filming this using a tablet, that is using a browser that I never heard of before this week called Silk. And so because I'm not able to be on Chrome on this device, that means I can't use TubeBuddy. But TubeBuddy, spelled TubeBuddy, that has a lot of features that really help you to get into the analytics behind your channel, which tells you how well different kinds of content does for you. It tells you about the demographics who are watching your channel. The better you get to know your audience, the better you can create the kind of content that your viewers want. Now, most of these YouTube teachers advise that it's best thing to do when you're starting out your channel is to find your niche, find out who your target audience is, and that way you can create the content that obviously makes you happy, but that the people who stand to watch it will be happy. Now, I neglected to niche my content down. I have a variety channel that deals with everything from cats to cannabis to politics to makeup, throw in some cooking, a whole bunch of things. And the thing with that is, if you do what I did and you fail to niche down, you're going to be growing a lot slower. I can only use myself as an example here. I've been doing this like 10 years and 2 months. During that time, right now, my subscriber count is 805. There are people that have only been doing this 2 or 3 years and have well over 1,000 subs. There are people doing this for 2 or 3 years that have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. But those tend to be the people that have identified their target audience, have niched down to just a few subjects, and they make content that conforms to those subjects. That way, first of all, there's a few advantages of that. The people who, when you get these new subscribers, you'll know, you won't have to ask yourself, I wonder why that person subscribed to me. Whenever I get new subs, unless I recognize their username from a comment they made on a prior video, or maybe it's somebody that I met on social media and we've had discussions about, say, politics or makeup or cats or marijuana or body piercings or something, there's a good chance you might not know why it is people subscribe to you. And if you don't know what their reason for subscribing to you is, it's really hard to make content for people when you don't know what their motivations are. Now, if somebody has a name like Makeup by George, well, then you'll know that they're might be mostly into watching you for your makeup tutorials. YouTube has something called the Creator Studio, and it's basically the back end of YouTube, and it has lots of analytics and diagnostics. You really should take a look at it. It gives you so much information about the kinds of people that are watching, and what they're most interested in, how many views you get, how much watch hour you get, and you can learn a lot, and it helps a lot with the trajectory of your growth of each individual video, how many views it gets in the first 48 hours. And it has this thing where it shows you in real time how many views each video is getting, how many videos your whole channel is getting. And it really is important, if you can, to try to get as many views in the first 48 hours. The more views it's getting, that basically tells the YouTube algorithm that people are interested in your content. And it's an interesting catch-22 situation here. The more people seem to be interested in YouTube, that sends a message to YouTube that these people are interested in your content. And then as a result, YouTube will show it to a lot more people. YouTube is kind of like Facebook in a way, in that YouTube and Facebook both don't show your content to all your subscribers, all your friends, whatever. Only a certain percentage of people actually see your video unless they click the bell to get notifications to when you post. And people can't watch what they don't know exists. Another reason why it's really important to use good SEO and craft your titles carefully so that it's something that people would want to know about. If you word it the right way so that it's similar to uh, how you would ask for something if you typed it into Google or any search engine, you'll make it so much easier to see. The easier it is to make your content to be found, the more people are going to see. And the more people watch your videos, you're telling YouTube that people are interested in your content, and as a result, they'll show it out to more people. Because YouTube is a company that's in business to make money, and they get money by how many hours of your content they watch. The whole idea with YouTube is you want to keep people on YouTube watching videos for as long as possible. So you really, when you're filling out the metadata, which is all the information that you put in your show notes, in your video, all that stuff you type in as just before you post your video, all that information, if you include external links that lead away from YouTube, if say a person is watching your video, then they click this link and they go on to, I'll use myself for example, my one model place modeling portfolio. Once they leave YouTube, that kind of is bad in a way, because then all of a sudden a person's eyes that were on YouTube and watching not only the video content but also watching the ads. So YouTube's making money, the advertisers are making money. Once people go from watching YouTube videos to watching something else, then that's really not such a good thing. You want to keep your external links to a minimum, even though I know that most people do like to put their social media links on there so that if you like a content creator, you can follow them on all the different social media that they're at. I probably belong to less of these social media things than most of my contemporary YouTubers are doing, even though now that I have a this tablet, which is considered a mobile device, that means that I will be able to join sites that I never could join before, such as Instagram, which has always been restricting the uploads to people with cell phones. I'm pretty sure it allows tablet uploads too. It might not though, so don't take my word for it because I haven't found out yet. But if it does allow uploads from this device, I will be joining that shortly. But do keep your external links to a minimum because you want to keep the videos, people watching YouTube as much as possible. Also, it's really important when you're uploading your videos to organize them into playlists so that people can binge watch your content. Uh, I don't know about you, but when I discover a creator I really like, I'll watch video after video after video. That helps them as well as it entertaining me, and it's good all around. You want to keep people watching. Uh, that way, the advertisers are making money, YouTube's making money, and more eyes and ears on us means that we get more subscribers, more recognition. It can even lead to things like product deals. It can lead to work. It can lead to all sorts of things. All you need is to get on the radar of one or two influential people. That can mean so much, and then you can be not only successful on YouTube, but you can get discovered for other things like podcasts, like radio, like television. And I come from a showbiz background. I spent a number of years in Los Angeles. I worked in film and television. I danced in rock videos. I danced on stages. I was a five lines or less actor on many movies and TV shows that I guaranteed most of you have watched. I've been on MTV videos. I was in the movie Rockstar. I was in Father's Day with Robin Williams, who I can tell you was a hell of a great guy. So YouTube can lead to all kinds of bigger and better things, even if YouTube only exists a couple more years. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with all the things that are going on with the censorship in Silicon Valley, and the fact that the companies that run these platforms tend to skew very left wing. So, and the censorship of political voices is a very real thing. So, if you produce political content, do be aware of that. It's important to be aware of the risks of controversy. I'm not saying don't get controversial. I find that some of my best videos actually are the controversial ones, but that can be a double-edged sword there. Another thing you might want to consider that could be problematic is once locals in your town find out that you're a content creator, that can really be tricky because on one hand we make videos because we want them to be seen, but if, say, somebody finds out that you're a content creator and they're your enemy, that can really cause problems. If, say, you're dissing your hometown for every legitimate reason that you might have to do it, and I'm speaking from experience here, who knows what kind of enemies you can make and what kind of job opportunities you might miss because maybe you might be inadvertently discouraging tourism in your town because you're showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's something I think I'm qualified to talk about because while I've showcased some of the beautiful things in this town, I will also have no qualms with telling you about the gang violence and how many times I hear gunshots out my window and all these things, even though I think it's important to, as a content creator, to be responsible in that I am being honest. I care about my viewers' safety. I wouldn't want somebody to think that this is a very, very, very safe place and walk around at 3 o'clock in the morning off the beaten path only to find out that they got mugged or worse. So I think it's important to honor my viewers by telling them the truth so that they can make informed choices so that they don't take chances with their safety. So, yeah, it's really important to keep these things in mind. As you are growing your channel, be aware that because circumstances, your finances can change. And just because I may have a nice bunch of equipment this week, if it breaks, and say I'm not able to afford to replace the same thing, so I might end up getting my next piece of technology might not have all the bells and whistles. And so my production quality might not be as good 2 weeks from now as it is now. I sometimes get people telling me, "Oh, your sound's a little muffled," or "things are a little dark." And I could be tempted to say, well, if I had unlimited money, I could afford the lights and I could afford the bells and I could afford the whistles. So things do fluctuate. Another thing is, say I finally learn a certain skill. It's kind of like with mathematics, school math. If, say, I don't have reason to use that skill because I haven't used it for like 3 or 4 years, then you can forget the procedure, and that's another reason why your production value can vacillate. I'll use as another example. I took such a long time to learn how to edit, and if you have a Windows-based computer, which is what I would highly recommend, almost all Windows-based laptop computers have a built-in video editor, and they have this thing called storyboard editing, which is the easiest way to learn how to edit. And these things don't come with instruction manuals or something. I had to just dumb on this. I literally dumbed on it. Found it out by mistake. Hello, Tabby boy. Want to come here? My cat's down here. Come here. Come here. Here. You're interrupting my video. Come here. Oh, there he goes running underneath the bed. He's terrible. But yeah. So do keep those things in mind. Oh yeah. If, say, you finally find a free service that teaches you how to make text on a thumbnail, and this is another case of where your production values will vacillate throughout your career as a content creator. I finally learned how to make text on videos, and I used a service called PicMonkey, P-I-C Monkey. And the thing is that I didn't want to pay for the service. I used the free version. And the thing is, the free version allows you to put text on videos, but you can't save it unless you happen to have a mouse. What happens if you have a kind of computer that only has a touchpad and you don't have a mouse? If you don't have a mouse, then you can't click things to save things. And the reason why I only had text on my thumbnails for a brief time is because after I no longer had a mouse, I wasn't able to click to save them. So that's why I don't have the text on the background. But it really generally is a good idea to have your thumbnails having a cohesive look. For instance, when you look at my videos, they almost all have my face on them. Certain elements you could see right away. Oh, I know that chick. That's Leather Rokk. I like her videos. I'm going to watch it. So you want to have some design elements that tie these things together as much as possible so that you have a look and a feel and a style sense that is yours. Also, even if you are not niche down, I'm not niche down, you want to have certain things that tie everything together. Like, for instance, a big part of my focus is doing things as cheaply as possible, which in my case I have to because I don't have much in the way of money. So I have no choice but to do things as frugally as possible. So one thing that is a common theme in my videos is doing things on a budget, doing as much with as little as possible. So if you're looking for ways to save money and you're looking for strategies to do something without unlimited funds, I think you would find my channel of value, since I'm coming from a perspective of doing things for very little, because not everybody has a lot of money to throw $2,000 on a Nikon camera and all these expensive things. Just because you have expensive equipment, all the good equipment in the world isn't going to help you if you don't know how to use it. So, and since fortunes ebb and flow throughout your life, production values could very well waver throughout your time as a YouTuber. So if there's a bottom line to take away from this, it's not as easy as it looks, but I'm not making this video to discourage you, but just to give you an idea as to what you may be in for. There's a lot of these things that I kind of wish I knew when I was starting out, but then again, sometimes if you know too much, you get too intimidated from even trying. And if any of you are looking for encouragement to go ahead and start your channel, I say go for it, because there is so much that I get out of being a content creator that goes beyond the occasional donations people do. Sometimes PayPal me donations and stuff, and I am very grateful for that. That has enabled me to buy some of the computers that I have used, and I am extremely grateful for all the support that I've gotten. But it's really a good idea to know as much as you can, and avail yourself of all the free educational resources that are out there. And it's really wonderful to be able to know that you have a medium here that's basically open to everybody in the world, even if all you have is a cell phone, as long as you, of course, know how to use it. And there are lots of instructional videos that give you tutorials on a lot of these products. But the very fact that you can get on a platform such as this and teach from your expertise, explore your interests, entertain people, give people joy, share with them your recipes, teach them first aid, teach them about jewelry, show them fashion, talk about animal rescue or whatever it is that you're passionate about. YouTube has offered me an opportunity to share some of my gifts with the world, and I met some of the most amazing people as a result. And even with all the negative things like the censorship and what's going on with our political climate, and the fact that even though we have a First Amendment, speaking here as an American citizen, even with all the limitations of this platform, I still recommend the experience. I don't regret it. And if you're looking for that nudge and that push to go and dare being a content creator, this is your sign. Go for it. This is open to people of all ages, from kids that are way too young to people that are knocking on death's door. Go for it. You can use so many different kinds of things to make content, and there's all kinds of ways to learn all kinds of educational things, but you won't know unless you try. And just know that just because some people get a success very early on, you could be doing it over 10 years and only have a handful of subs. And sometimes, I won't lie, sometimes that gets to me, but then sometimes you have to just step back and think, okay, maybe I don't have millions and millions of subscribers, but however, what does that mean? The people that do watch me don't count? I don't think that they would like it if you felt like that. So you should be grateful for the people who do watch, and enjoy the fact that people care enough to spend some time to watch what you create. There are so many options here for entertainment. Anybody can turn on a TV. There's millions and millions and millions of creators. So I know, speaking for myself, I am grateful for all the people that watch me. And if I can brighten somebody's day by making content that makes them think, makes them smile, teaches them something, maybe gets them angry enough to act on some kind of political cause or environmental cause or whatever it is that gets their blood pumping. There's something about having a public voice and being able to reach people all around the world. There's nothing quite like it. And for me, it's my Hollywood substitute until I can get back to that area that I wish I'd never left. But, shit happens. Anyway, I hope that these have been giving you a little bit of food for thought and giving you some idea as to just what the reality is of a YouTube content creator. It's not as easy as it looks. It can be very slow growth, but it can still be very rewarding. And the things you learn and the people you meet and the fact that all the stuff that you're creating will live on. If I get struck down dead tomorrow, all these videos that I have here will go on to touch future people. And that is a way, almost a way of having a little bit of immortality. So, yes, I definitely do not regret being a YouTube content creator, and you can probably do it too. So, there you have it. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you like me and my content and you haven't already, hit that bell so it looks like it's ringing, and that way you won't miss anything I post. I'll talk to you again in a couple of days. You take care of yourself now. Bye.